Hello there. So I think we're on episode 8, I think, of Joe's Chats. And today I'm going to be speaking to the lovely Kay. She's actually going to be talking to us from her bed because she does live with fibromyalgia. So we're keeping it real. That's what these chats are all about. And I just want to warn some of you that's watching that we are going to be talking about miscarriage and losing a child, and it may trigger something. So just a little warning there. Before I bring Kay in, I know the lovely Kay from, we're both studying to do transformational coaching, and it's really nice to touch base with someone who is on the same coaching journey. So without further ado, I'll bring her in.
Hello.
Hi, Kay. How you doing?
Hello.
You look
all right.
I hope you're
Nice
relaxed.
and relaxed now.
Lovely. So I know this is going to be a tough one for you, and I really, really appreciate you sharing your story with us because I know it's going to help some women watching. And like we chatted before we came on air, even if it helps just one person, then it's going to be worth doing this.
Definitely.
So can we go back? Can we start with your IVF journey? Maybe that's a good place to start.
I think that's a really good place to start because I wasn't actually going to have children.
Was that a choice or?
No, I was never going to settle down. I was never having children. I was a professional. I'm an ex-trauma orthopedic nurse, and then I went into pharmaceuticals, and it just was not on my radar.
Okay.
But then I met my husband, and I think it's about meeting the right person.
Yeah.
And because I met the right person, we did want to have children. And also our values aligned with it.
Right.
My mum was always around for me and my sister by working just part-time around our school hours. And that's what I wanted to do.
Right. So when you were busy, that wasn't the right time. So
no, I was leaving the house at like 6 in the morning, not getting home till late. When you're a nurse, I don't know how a lot of them do it because it's always shift work. I know there's a lot of nurses that do nights. I like my sleep. Yeah, it just wouldn't work for me. And of course, now that I know about my son being neurodivergent, it would definitely not work. So it all happened in a way where, I wasn't going to have children. But then, of course, I met my husband. I went through life making sure I wouldn't get pregnant because I didn't want children.
Contraceptives all the way.
Oh my God, yeah. I was on the pill and insisted on condoms. There was no way I was getting pregnant. And then you go through all of that and then you realise, actually, it's quite hard getting pregnant.
As you get older, because I guess by then you were a geriatric mum, as they call it.
Yes, I was.
Well.
Yeah. So I think we met around, I was about 35. He's actually a toy boy because he's 7 years younger.
Oh.
So I've done well. However, and he won't mind me admitting this because he used to shout this out in the clinic, it's not actually my problem, it's his. So my reproductive organs, everything was fine. Okay. You have to have a lot of checks. It was his sperm.
Okay. Low sperm count.
Not just low sperm count. They couldn't find their way around, which is ironic because he is rubbish at directions as well himself. And some of them had misshaped heads as well, which meant they couldn't penetrate an egg.
Right.
So we actually went one step further than IVF. We had ICSI.
What's that?
Do you know what ICSI is? I explain.
Oh, I've lost you. Are you back?
Sorry, you froze then.
Yeah, so did you. Right, we're back. So can you explain what that is for myself and for anyone watching who doesn't know what that means?
Yeah. So ICSI is one step further from IVF. So with IVF, they get all the good sperm, they get all the good eggs, and they put them in a petri dish and they leave them to just do their course and and see which ones fertilise. ICSI, and don't ask me the abbreviations, I won't be able to tell you right now. What they do is they get all the good sperm with the right heads that can swim and all of that, but they actually inject one of them into a good egg. So they're actually put into the egg.
So they don't have to do any swimming. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hence why you're more likely to end up with identical twins. Not necessarily, but sometimes there's a higher rate of identical twins because of that, because you can sometimes end up splitting the egg. Okay, while it's being injected. So that's basically what happened with us. And so yeah, it was my 4th embryo transfer that it worked. I'd had one fresh, it had worked. Unfortunately, I miscarried on Mother's Day.
Oh.
Yeah. And I always remember it because it was Jade Goody died as well on the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I always remember it because as soon as I hear about her, then it's like, and it's not a date I just remember automatically. Mother's Day is all different days, isn't it? But as soon as I hear on the radio, then I know that was my first ever miscarriage. It was important at the time, but obviously with my journey now, it's not as important because unfortunately it got worse for us as a family with miscarriages and stuff like that. The second go just didn't. The second go, I had frozen embryos from the first go, so I was able to use those. So it was just literally a case of they defrost them. Sounds dreadful, doesn't it? It's like a bag of peas. They defrost them and then they are put back inside me, and that didn't work. So that was 2 embryo transfers that I had, and then I had another fresh embryo transfer which didn't work. So we were on our last go. We weren't going to have any more goes.
Does this cost money as well every time?
We were very, very fortunate. I love the NHS at the time because we're talking 15, 16 years ago, maybe even 17 years ago. In our area, because it's a postcode lottery, we were able to have 3 free fresh goes.
Oh, wow.
As long as neither of us smoked, neither of us had adopted or fostered, and neither of us had children from another relationship.
Okay, so you ticked all those boxes.
And also my husband gave up his 40 a day habit, which I was well pleased about.
Oh, so that was a really good incentive, wasn't
Wonderful.
it?
I loved the fact that he did that. Yeah. That was how much we wanted a child.
Yeah.
So I can't say he doesn't still have the odd one every now and again, but
Probably when he's stressed or drinking, is it?
He doesn't really drink. He might have a beer when he's in his shed tinkering away, but no, not really. He's due to him being neurodivergent, he's not really that kind of sociable person. So yeah, but yeah. So there was a list of things that we had to adhere to, and so I'm completely aware how harder it is these days to even get the funding or be able to fund it yourself. And so I am very, very blessed and thankful to the NHS. So the frozen one, no, we paid for.
Right.
So we just paid for the actual transfer. So it wasn't as much, but it was still quite a bit.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and that's what we did.
So the last one was successful.
Yes. And it was so. Do you know much about IVF and how it works? And
no, I've got friends that have been through it. I know it can be stressful. I've spoke to a couple of ladies that have been through it, but I'm not. It hasn't touched me personally. So
okay, I think when you see now celebrities going on about they had IVF, and all of a sudden they've got this beautiful family and it's all wonderful, and you never hear the bad bits. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but it's very, very stressful, extremely stressful
it's a hard
on
journey.
both of us in different ways. For me, I had to go through a lot of procedures. I got scanned a lot, vaginally as well. So it's not exactly, it's very invasive. I had to go up there every week. I live in Essex in Southend. I'd have to get the train to Liverpool Street and then another train to Berks, which is where I had the treatment done. And if there was any issues, there were times when I had some side effects. It wasn't like I could just get on the phone and speak to somebody. It was quite hard to get help. And also my husband felt a bit waysided, really, I think, because he didn't come up to the clinic as often as I would have liked, because he is a workaholic. However, when he did come up, they always called me into the room, not Kate and Tim or Mr. and Mrs. Howe. It was always.
Why is it still like that, or is that because it
I
was?
I really don't know. I've no idea.
Because that sounds like something would happen like in the Dark Ages, isn't it? To leave the husband out, it's just not only for him, but for you and the support that it would have given you.
Oh, it can get worse, Joe. So there was a telly when in the waiting room, okay, and do you remember all the chat shows they used to have on? I'm trying to think of somebody right this minute, and I can't.
Jerry Springer and all of
Jerry
those.
Springer, but this was an English one, and I can't remember the last person.
The guy who got fired because someone committed suicide after going on his show.
Yes. Would you believe
someone will be shouting at the screen now, remembering his name.
Exactly. But his show would be on where we're all sitting there wanting children, having to listen to people on his show shouting, "I wish you were never born," and stuff like that. You know, and one day I got so annoyed, I just went up to reception and said, "Could you please change the channel?" Because
I think they'd think about stuff like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's I think it's more likely to be thought of a lot more these days. You've got to remember, as I say, it was a long time ago when I had mine. And of course, I think with most people having to go private these days, there'd be a lot more consideration as well. That's what I would.
The fact that that's stuck in your head, that TV program was on, just shows that it marked you, that it was really significant part of you.
It was, because we're all sitting, and I used to look around thinking, am I the only one here that thinks this is absolutely disgraceful, that we're having to listen to this in the background while we're waiting to go in? It was, I think it's little things that you remember more so in this kind of thing. It is part of the journey, I suppose. But on our last go, I actually wasn't going to have it. I was just absolutely fed up. My body was, so I used to have really tiny boobs. They were double A. Oh my God, you should have seen them after treatment. My husband would go, "Oh my God," and I'd say, "Don't touch me." I was so swollen. Like everything was swollen and I felt sore. And when you're having the IVF drugs to make sure you get enough eggs for them to collect, I'm sure you can all imagine having just
all over the place.
Yeah, exactly, because they're giving you extra hormones as well. So I can't say I was the most loveliest person when I had a period anyway. So you can imagine. And I remember I think it was our first go on egg collection day. It was really busy at Liverpool Street Station, and I was so scared that someone was going to bump into me because I was so swollen.
And you were on your own as well?
No, Tim was with me. Okay. On that day, he has to come with me because he's got his little job to do.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so
Makes sense.
he was trying to protect me on the tube to get to Barts, because I said, if anyone goes anywhere near me, I'm going to scream, because I'm so tender and sore, to the point where even when I was walking, it was hurting to move. And but of course, it's a weird situation, because you want a lot of eggs, because that way you're more likely to get some really good eggs to start your journey and actually hopefully get a child from it.
I guess it's mixed feelings, isn't it? When you're feeling so sore, but then at the same time, you know that that's kind of a good thing.
Yes.
Because you're making the eggs. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I can imagine your head's all scrambled.
it is. It's a really, really weird thing. But also, by the way, Tim hadn't got his diagnosis by then as well. So he got
ADHD.
diagnosed with autism when I think Henry was about 1 or 2, maybe 3. I'm thinking more as a baby. So I think he was about 2. So I just always thought my husband was just a bit eccentric, because he was extremely intelligent, but very, very odd in little ways, which didn't bother me. And I used to find them quite funny. I still do. There's a lot of little isms that are hilarious. Others I could kill him, but that's another story.
That's for another podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could do a whole thing with me, Joe. We could have a chat every day. So,
series.
So anyway, yeah. So egg collection is a bit of a weird one as well, because your husband's not with you. Well, this was my experience. I had egg collection while he was doing his thing in another room.
Right.
And to be fair, I think I would have liked him with me, because it's actually, I've heard a lot of people got sedated. I kind of got sedated, but the pain relief wasn't as great for me. And by the end of it, you're very, very sore, and you're very, very swollen. And so you then go back and have a little bit of recovery time. And then, of course, I've got to get back on 2 trains to get home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a nice experience, no.
Well, see, this is the thing. And again, it's very bittersweet, because you're wanting to do it because you want children. But then you think, oh, I wish I could have some fun and just do it how everyone else does it.
Yeah.
That'd be better.
Yeah.
And it takes the joy. It's a bit, it's very clinical as well. And then you have to wait. You wait till the following day, which is horrendous for you. And then you have to wait for a phone call. Now, also, you've got to remember, I am old. The internet wasn't around, really.
No.
You did have it, but it was that plug-in internet.
Yeah, not like it is now. Yeah, with that funny noise.
Oh, yes, exactly. So some of your younger girls are going to be going, what on earth are they talking about?
What are those dinosaurs talking about?
Exactly, yeah. The only good thing about that is our partying days, Joe, aren't on social media. And I don't know about you, but I'm so pleased about that. That is, it's nice to have the memories and know what went on, but it's nice that no one else can see that.
And that's the beauty of being a geriatric mum, because we got it all done beforehand.
Exactly. Oh, did I? Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, I had a great time when I was younger. I mean, I was a student nurse, Joe. Come on, I did have fun.
Okay.
And I was in Romford, Harold Wood area. We used to go into London. We used to have a great time. So yeah, so you have to wait for the phone call, and then you have to wait a couple of days to see what's going on. And then any minute they can go, you've got to come back in, and we're going to do a trial. You know, we're going to put the embryos back in for you.
Right.
So it's a very weird time of the process as well. So I had that, and then you go home and you have a 2-week wait. Do you know about the 2-week wait?
Well, is that waiting to see if you're pregnant or not? Or
Yeah.
So
they call it.
Probably feels like 2 years.
It's horrendous. Now, some people are very much like, it's fine. I'm going to go off and do this, that, and whatever. It was my last go. I'd even said to them, throw everything at me. Whatever you can give me for this to work, throw it at me. So I was on baby aspirin, which is, I think, 75 milligrams. And I was also on steroids.
But
And
what do they do to help, steroids?
steroids were help to make sure that I didn't. It's more about making sure like you don't have a miscarriage, but also it's something to do with your immune system. I can't quite remember. It's been a long, long time. And it's hilarious because steroids just made me really hangry.
Right.
1 minute I'd think, oh, I'm a bit hungry, and then I was like, if no one feeds me now, I'm going to kill them.
Gonna
It
rip
was
their head off.
dreadful. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But that's what I was on, just to try and help the
Well,
process.
did you not have steroids previously? You just on the
No,
last?
no, just on the last one.
It's different then.
Yeah, yeah. I
Makes
think they
sense
did.
if you've
I
done
just
it
said
before.
we can't afford any more. So this is our last go, and if it doesn't work, we have got a plan B.
Did
And our
they?
plan,
Sorry
sorry,
to interrupt you.
yeah,
Did they offer you steroids or did you ask for them?
no, it was just the plan that they came up with. I just said to them, I'll be honest, you know me, I'm very brutal and honest. I just said, this is our last go. Just throw whatever you can at me. I don't care what it is. If it gets me pregnant, that's wonderful. I don't care. This is my last go. I'm never doing this again.
And then that's
So,
when they came up with the
yeah,
plan.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So the 2 week wait for me was, I think I watched either the box set of Friends
I knew you were going to say Friends.
or Cold Feet.
Right. Yeah. Another good
Yeah.
one.
Again, everyone's going to be like, oh, we've got to look them up.
They're both really good. Cold Feet's the English version of Friends, isn't it?
I, it's a little bit different because I think Cold Feet, you can actually blub, can't you? I don't think
Yeah.
I ever blubbed
I think there's
in,
a couple of blubbing in Friends, but not many. Not
not
many. Yeah.
many.
Or in
Whereas,
Cold Feet.
yeah, Cold Feet, and I'm
It was
talking
more real,
about,
wasn't it?
sorry,
Cold Feet was more real.
more real. And I'm only talking about the actual old version, not the other version they did without one of the characters because I didn't like it. Couldn't get into it.
She
It
died,
wasn't.
didn't she? She died.
You don't
Sorry.
tell people that.
They don't know which one. Right, let's move on quickly.
Hurry up. So yeah, so literally it was literally
So feet
oh,
up, watching
oh
telly,
yeah,
waiting.
watching telly, trying not to think about what might be going on in my body, basically. But on the last go, it was a few days before I was allowed to test. We were watching telly, and do you know Adele's song "Make You Feel My Love" came on?
Yeah, yeah.
And I got very, very teary, like really teary. And I started crying. And Tim was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm really upset. And I knew straight away.
It was your
My gut
hormones.
said,
You're pregnant.
my gut just said, you're pregnant. So I knew. And then I'm thinking, I've got to wait. I've got to wait. What do I do? What do I do? And it got to the Monday. I think that would have been on the Saturday. And it got to the Monday, very, very early hours of Monday. And I just thought, he was fast asleep. And I just thought, you know what? I can't hold on any longer. I'm going to go and do a pregnancy test without him. And it came back positive. And I was just like, oh my God.
So
I
you
was
can wake
so,
up.
well, I jumped on the bed, woke him up. And all I remember him saying is, Peanut, Peanut, you shouldn't have done it so early.
So he called you Peanut.
Yes, that's my nickname, Peanut. And so I remember getting up, going to the 24-hour Tesco, getting some more tests, getting him some Krispy Kreme donuts just to keep him happy while I was doing the tests. And I think we did about 3 or 4 with him going in the background. We should have got shares in pregnancy tests, you know, we would have made a fortune. And then, of course, you get told you're pregnant, but of course, you're very, very early stages of pregnancy as well. So then you have to wait for your scan.
Which is when? 3
Uh,
months?
I 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. Again, I can't completely remember. Now, I have no sense of smell. I'm dreadful. No sense of smell whatsoever, which was actually really good when I was nursing, to be fair.
Mm.
But I remember we were getting on the train to go up to Liverpool Street, and all of a sudden we'd sat with this lady, and all I could smell was her perfume.
Make you feel
And it was
sick.
so strong, it smelt like she'd literally bathed in it. And it was just too much for me. And so I whispered to Tim, "Can you smell her perfume?" And he went, "No." I said, "You should." Hey, if I could smell her perfume, I would have told you by now because it would have annoyed me. And I was like, okay. I
Yeah,
said, "Well,
pregnancy really heightens your sense of smell, doesn't it? I remember when I was pregnant, because I used to hate the smell of smoke anyway. I was really anti-smoking. But when I was
so
pregnant,
fine."
oh my God, I was like, who's smoking? Who's smoking? And my
Oh,
husband looked and he was like, no one. And it was someone like a mile up the road. I could smell
for me,
smoking.
it was stale smoke. You know, when you've got someone that's got stale smoke on their clothes,
Oh,
I'd be in a supermarket and all of a sudden I'd be like, got to get out of this aisle because I could smell it. It was just horrendous.
isn't it weird?
It's so, so weird. But more so for me because I've got no sense of smell.
Right. Yeah. So it's like not used to it
And
at all.
then as we got off, as we were getting off at Bart's, I call myself Woo. Tim calls me Hippy Dippy. There were two feathers that I saw in the carriage.
Two
And as I
miscarriages.
looked at them, he went, "Don't you dare start. We've got to have the scan. We've got to have the scan. Don't you dare start on what you think that symbolises."
Oh, so you thought one was a previous miscarriage and you thought this one might be this one?
Well, no, I was thinking, because of course everyone kept saying, "Oh, you've had 2 embryos put in. You might be having twins." They've been saying that quite a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I saw them. And of course, they also symbolise, angels and stuff like that. So yeah. But in my head, as soon as I saw them, I thought, I'm having twins. I'm going to have twins.
Okay. So it's a positive
Oh
thing.
God, yeah, very, very positive, very, very positive. I love feathers.
Because
In
I was
fact,
thinking angels.
yeah, yeah, of course. So so to be fair, Henry actually asked for his 14th birthday to be given a feather by George, and he
Oh,
got it.
did
He got
he? He's
Yeah, he
not.
found one. Yeah, he just out of the blue came home and went, "Mummy, look." So that was yeah. Um, so yeah, had the scan, and of course we didn't know what was going on. We're laying there. These are 2 little blobs, for God's sake. These they're trying to figure out what we've got, and they took forever to tell us. And then they said, "You're pregnant with twins," and we were like, "Oh my God!" And they said, "It's identical twins." And we were like, "Oh my God, even better." Tim's a twin himself, but not identical.
Okay.
So we were very, very happy. One of the doctors did actually sit there though with me and said, "Because it's identical, you may have issues though. I do want to make you aware of that. You know, you will have to be looked at more so than a normal twin pregnancy or a normal just a pregnancy through IVF."
Why is that? Because it came from the same.
No, no. So basically, all identical twins are from a split egg, even if it's not IVF. Okay. So
Yeah.
some eggs, even with a natural pregnancy, will split into 2, and that is how you get identical twins.
Right.
All
So
right.
why is it more likely there might be problems?
because the reason they were looking so carefully and took so long to tell us what was going on was because they shared the same placenta, but there was, and they also shared the same sac, which doesn't always happen. But there was a membrane separating the two of them. So although they were in the same sac, there was a little membrane separating them as well. And that's not all necessarily usual, as far as I'm aware. I've never really researched it. I can't say as gospel that that's how it is. I didn't really read up too much on identical twins because it was scaring me, to be fair. Although I used to, who are the Irish twins? The identical twins, Jedward.
Oh yeah.
They used to annoy the hell out of me. I can't tell you how much they used to annoy me. After the way that everything happened with us, I can't believe how lucky their parents are and how special they are. So I see them in a different light now. They're not annoying anymore. I just think, wow, you may not have been on Earth really. It's so lovely that you are, that kind of thing. Because on our 8-week scan at Southend Hospital, because after we got so it must have been no, sorry, our 12-week scan at Southend. They had to bring someone specialised to come down to see us, to scan us, because of our situation. Now, again, this is different now. At Southend Hospital, they've got a specialist unit. And so everyone is already there. They've got health professionals that are okay to do all of this kind of stuff. But for us, they had to have someone travel down from King's at the time to scan us. And they used different scans for us. So they were a bit more, I don't know, a bit more advanced, I suppose. Because on our 12-week scan, they needed to make sure everything was going okay. I had a bleed just before my 12-week scan, which frightened the life out of me, as you can imagine. And I did go in as an emergency. And when I was scanned, they said, no, everything's okay. You've still got your twins there. When I actually went for my official 12-week scan, we found out that actually, although we'd never seen 3 heartbeats, I'd miscarried a third. So really, we were supposed to have triplets.
Oh, wow. Would they have been identical?
No, so I would have had a set of identical twins and then one that wouldn't look like them, or maybe looked like them but wasn't. Yeah.
That would
So
have
I'm
been
sure they looked alike, but yeah.
yeah.
And again, it wasn't overall sadness because I had 2, you know. And I was just so excited that they were okay after thinking I'd miscarried them completely. But then from then on, they were like, we want to scan you again next week. And then after that, we will decide whether you need to travel up to King's. Because we've got to keep an eye on these twins, basically, because of the nature of sharing the same placenta, sharing the same sac, that kind of thing. And I was really, really happy because on the next week we went back, usually you have to wait to find out the sex. Tim was adamant that we wouldn't find out. He really, really wanted a surprise. I was along the lines of, do you know what? We've got to be really careful here because they are in danger still. We've got to be so careful through this pregnancy. I would like to know so that we can name them and I can start talking to them and bonding with them because that's just me. And so he was still umming and ahhing. And then when we went for our 13-week scan with the professionals, they actually turned around and said, do you want to know the sex? And I just went, Tim. And he went, oh, for God's sake, go on then. And we had a really funny doctor, and he goes, look, and there's me going, what? And Tim was like, oh, for God's sake, Kay, what can you see? They're testicles. We're having boys.
Could actually see them, could you? Did you see them in the end, or you just took their word for it?
You could, but they were so. I wasn't expecting to be able to see on the screen them so clearly. I think I wasn't exactly sure what we were looking at, because it was he
Mm.
basically zoomed in on them as well. So I was like, well, what am I actually looking at right now? And you've got to remember, it's extra hormones
Mm.
and also steroids in my system. I was a little bit cray cray. Let's put it this way. I was so. And it was funny because I'd always said I didn't care what sex they were. I could have had 2 pink elephants and I would have been happy because it had taken us so long to get to this stage. I really didn't care. But part of me was pleased because I'm not a girly girl and I didn't want to have that having to do the hair in the morning when they go into school and
Oh,
that kind of.
I've got 2
So,
boys, so yeah, I was
yeah,
like, I'm not really a dull hair person.
no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot easier and nicer in the mornings. So yeah, that's me. That's me being practical, I suppose. And so then after that, every 2 weeks we'd go up to King's, or I would go. Tim went a couple of times, but sometimes I'd take my mum. And again, train journey to Liverpool Street, and
Mm.
then a bus this time, a bus to King's College Hospital to get them scanned. So I could be in there all day. I'd get there first thing in the morning and I could be there all day because it's a specialist place. And of course, if there was emergencies and stuff like that, not all the professionals were there and they'd be short staffed. So literally I would go and just hope for the best, really, that I'd
Yeah,
be seen quicker.
long day.
It is a very long day. And then I would lay on a table and they would have to measure every part of my boys. So at this point, I can tell you we had Henry Alexander and we had
Mm.
George William, and that's were their names. So it took a while because unfortunately Tim really wanted a girl. So we had girls' names, but not boys. So he had to sort of get over his little bit of upset about that. I could have slapped him because, of course, I'd been through hell with my body. And there's him saying, oh, I wanted girls. I'm like, honestly, you've really just got to be thankful that we've got children. But yeah, finally we got quite regal names, as you can tell. I wanted
Yeah.
a few alternative names, but he weren't having them. He just wasn't going to have them. So, but I love the name Henry and George. I really do, really, really do. So, Henry Alexander. Alexander is Tim's twin brother, and William is my dad's name. So
They seem very
it's
royal.
very royal, very regal, if you think about it. And it just so happened that on the day that we had them, it was either the day before or the day after, Prince William and Kate got married.
Oh, there we go. That's nice.
So yeah, nice little touch there. Um, so yeah, so from then on, we were going up there and getting them measured. So everything had to be measured. They also measured the blood flow and nutrients going in and what was happening with the placenta. And unfortunately, George wasn't as big as Henry. He wasn't getting as many nutrients. He wasn't getting as much because unfortunately, this is what can happen. Because they're sharing the same placenta, sometimes it's not a 50-50 split, and it wasn't with them two either. And knowing Henry now, it's amazing because he was actually quite a calm baby in the womb, whereas George was absolutely crazy. He would move around so much that the doctors used to get really annoyed because they were trying to measure him and he was moving about quite a lot. And of course, I could watch all of this on screen, so I'd be
Mm.
watching all of this. Um, One of the professionals got me a fantastic photo one day of Henry kissing George's head.
Oh.
And he caught it just in that moment, and it's just so lovely. Unfortunately, the next week they were kicking each other so much, they were having like a little fight, and they just wouldn't stay still. It was hilarious. But there's little moments like that were really lovely.
Mm.
And then on the last one before Christmas was the 21st of December. And Tim was able to come with me, and it was just me and him. And we got up there quite early, and they scanned us, and then they said, we're really worried about George. He's still not thriving. We're not sure really what's happening there, and we're now starting to worry about Henry because of the circumstances. And because it's the 21st of December and we've got Christmas coming up, it would mean that instead of 2 weeks, you'd probably have to wait maybe 3 weeks because of everything. We've got lots of other, we've got lots of other patients to see as well. So we're just trying to figure out what to do. And we've decided that we feel that the best thing for you two to do is to have, say yes to a procedure. And the procedure is just like a tiny little cut into my abdomen. And it was a specialist professor. And at the time, he was the only one that could do this procedure. And his name is Professor Nicolades. And I've got a little story. I'm looking at the time, but I'll tell you another time because I did tell him off because of his smoking. And everyone went, because I was talking to God, Joe. And I just told him off. But they were all like, oh my God, she just told him off. But anyway, unfortunately, so this is where the guilt comes in for me. I had to sign a consent form, not Tim, me, because it's my body. And of course, they have to tell you exactly what you're signing. And it was a 1 in 3 chance I'd lose both. There was a 1 in 3 chance I'd keep both. And there was a 1 in 3 chance I'd keep one and not the other.
But what was the alternative if you didn't have the procedure? Did
The
they tell you?
alternative, well, the alternative would have been I would have had to wait over Christmas and hope that they were both okay. And they couldn't say that they would definitely both be okay.
So I mean, you shouldn't feel guilty because there's no choice there, is there? I mean, it's like tossing a coin, isn't it? I mean,
I know. I think it's the fact that this is why I'm going to psychotherapy. And I will say this, I am going to psychotherapy over this. And in fact, I've got it at 3:00 today. So I've got my psychotherapist at 3. Because I didn't get a huge amount of help when all of this happened. And so it's later in life when I've started getting the help that I should have had when all of this happened in the first place. Because I am aware of the time. I am aware of the time, Joe. But for me, I feel like I signed his death warrant because I had to sign the form, not Tim, not the doctors, me. And that's a lot to put on someone when you really, really want children.
of course it is, my love, and you should have had the support right then and there.
I didn't get any support. I actually had to find it myself as well, Joe. I can't tell you how bad it was. Another time, because honestly, mental health now is really, there's a lot on about it. But at the time, mental health was a very taboo subject. You shouldn't be asking for help in mental health. But I did. I did go around asking for it, but really it should have just been offered to me.
Yeah, it should be a natural procedure, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
Afterwards.
yeah. So I'm sure that you and everyone knows now what happened because I'm getting a bit upset. But through the procedure, I lost George. Yeah. So what happened was Professor Nicolades went in, and what he did was he lasered the placenta in the hope that by doing so, Henry would get his share and George would get his share. And it would be like a 50-50 split. But of course, I had those odds as well, and I knew those odds. And I was so determined that they were both going to live. And do you remember the first kick that you ever feel with your child? It's a little bit like wind. I'd had that from George while I was waiting for Professor Nicolaides to come. And so when it got to signing the consent form, I thought, that's a sign. He knows he's going to be okay. He wants me to have it. So I'm so convinced that he'd be okay. And then he wasn't. And so they do the procedure and then they leave you in a room and it's ever so quiet and there's just me and Tim there. And then they come back in. Dr. Nicolaides is already doing the procedure elsewhere on the floor as well. It wasn't just me there. There was quite a few of us waiting for him. We were waiting till about 6 or 7 at night as well for him to come round because I think he'd been at lectures or something. And then 2 of his colleagues came and scanned me and said, look at Henry. He's so healthy. Look. But I could also see George. And his heartbeat was slowing. And no one joked.
Were they trying to cheer you up by saying that about?
I think so.
Henry.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But I straight away looked at George because I knew Henry was perfectly fine. And it was George that I was worried about. So, as an ex-nurse, I always say I'm an ex-nurse. I haven't nursed in over 20 years. I knew he was dying. And so they switched all the machines off and they said, we'll leave you to it for a bit.
Did they not verbalise that? They left you to work that out yourself?
Well, I said, yes, Henry's fine, but look at George's heartbeat. And so they went off and bless him, Professor Nicolaides came in and sat with me and was still had his jacket on that stunk of smoke. But he was lovely. He really was lovely. And he said, I know that this is such a shame because I know you wanted both of them. And it's quite symbolic because we're right near Christmas. But, you know, you have at least got one child still. And I'm sure he's going to be absolutely fine now because of what's happened. So, you know, just try and have a nice Christmas. And yeah, that was basically it. So he then went out. And then another doctor came back in and said, we're going to discharge you now from King's. You don't need to come back. Tomorrow, ring up Southend Hospital and ask to have a scan to make sure that Henry's okay.
That was it. Off you went.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. What a horrible having to deal with that and then just off you go.
Yeah. And we couldn't even find a taxi to get me back to Liverpool Street. So we had to get on a bus. Both of us really upset.
I can imagine.
And then get the train from Liverpool Street and my dad picked us up at Southend.
Bless you. You've just had a birthday, haven't you, recently?
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. Because they were in the same sack, although George had died, it meant that I carried Henry and George, and thankfully Henry is now 14. I had to carry them both with George died, he'd died until both boys were born on the 28th of April. So
And
you can imagine.
are you okay to carry on?
Of course I am. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Can I ask you some questions?
Of course you can. Yeah.
So when you gave birth,
Mm-hmm.
what was that like? Was it like,
So,
I can't imagine what that would be like.
well,
If you're okay to describe it a little bit, or
yeah. So,
only what you're happy to say.
yeah. No. That's absolutely fine. When we went back when we went back to Southend and had the scan and found out that Henry was okay, they weren't wanting me to have extra scans or anything like that. I was supposed to then go on until, I can't even remember when you're supposed to have another scan after 20 weeks.
I can't remember either. It's so long ago.
No, exactly. And I don't even know what it's like now. And so I had to have a bit of an argument with them because they were saying, well, really, you shouldn't come and have a scan now. And I'm saying, but I've just had this procedure the night before and I'm scared. I want to see Henry and I want to make sure he's okay. So I went around the unit and found the twin midwife that they had there. And she was so lovely, Jo. I can't tell you how lovely she was. She said to me, I know I shouldn't do this. She said, but I'm going to. This is my private phone number. And because we're going to be closed most of the time over Christmas, I don't want you being left and getting worried until Henry starts kicking. And Henry hadn't kicked by then. It was only George that had kicked. And I hadn't felt Henry kick at all.
So it's understandable why you wanted a scan, if you're not feeling
exactly.
movement.
So a scan was done. And so I knew that Henry was okay. But she said to me, here's my private number. And if you feel the need to come in and just hear Henry's heartbeat, I will make sure it happens.
That was nice of her, wasn't it?
It was so lovely of her. So lovely of her. Because I'll tell you now, not all the midwives were like her.
No,
I had to really, really fight for stuff. So you can imagine I went in every day. I gave her Christmas Day off. But it was just a horrible, horrible time.
Sure.
But even she said, when I said to her, I won't have to give birth naturally, will I? And she said, well, it is probably best for you. And I said, no, it's not best for me. I want a C-section. I really want a C-section. And I know, being a nurse and when I was training, being on the labour ward and stuff like that, I really knew I wanted a C-section. I did not want to give birth naturally. I did not want to have to give birth to one that was alive and one that was dead. And I know...
That's why I was asking, because that would have been traumatic again on top of everything else, I think.
Oh, it gets worse, Jo, and I'm looking at the time. So
we definitely have to have a second one. Finish this.
I know, yeah. So basically, I had to find my own mental health therapist because Southend Hospital at the time, this was the first time it had ever happened. They didn't know what to do with us. And all I got told was, yes, you can have bereavement counselling, but once the boys are born. And I said, no, I need it now.
Yeah, because you'd already lost him.
Thank you.
He was inside you, but you'd already lost him, hadn't you?
Yeah.
How did they not see that?
So, bless her again, the twin midwife gave me a number and said, you can self-refer to this place. So it's probably the best thing for you to do. And it was called an emotional support team. So I had to self-refer. They were absolutely disgusted that I self-referred for this.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I was very, very lucky. I had a lovely, lovely midwife called Frances who came to see me very, very regularly to keep an eye on me and make sure that I was okay before both boys were born. and I was going to have to fight for a C-section as well, because they did want me to go naturally. And so she was in my corner. And when I was tired and fed up and depressed and also worried about Henry, she was setting up a multidisciplinary team just in case the doctor turned around and said, no, I'm insisting that she goes naturally. I had to wait until 36 weeks to know that I was going to be able to have a C-section elective. So from 21 to 36 weeks, I had to wait to find out.
About that all the time, adding to all your stress and trauma, and bless you, lovely.
Yeah. So yes, we had our planned elective C-section. And we actually spoke to the bereavement midwife. Unfortunately, when I'd actually phoned the bereavement midwife, I didn't realise this, but she wasn't the usual midwife that was doing it. She was sort of covering it. I think the lady that I actually saw near to the end had been on maternity leave or something. So I was able, Frances, the emotional support midwife, had arranged for us to see the midwife just before Henry and George were born, to make sure that everything went a lot smoother than it had. And so she asked whether we wanted to see George and whether we wanted photos and that kind of thing. And it was all really, really lovely. At the time, we decided we didn't want to see him and we didn't want photos. I wish I hadn't have done that. I think I wish I had seen him. But the way we looked at it was, we wanted to celebrate Henry's birth. And then on the 21st of December would always be George's Day. And that's how we do it. So
Because
that's how
that's you found out.
well, he died. He died
That's a
on
good
the
way to
21st.
separate the two, so that you can celebrate a birth. Yeah, so I think that's a really good way that you're doing it.
Yeah, so that's how we do it. So yeah, it was lovely, I must say. The elective C-section was lovely. I had a really, really lovely anaesthetist who did the epidural. And I had two lovely ladies that did the C-section. And I can't tell you the relief of when Henry was put in my arms.
I bet.
It just never goes away.
Oh, well, that's I don't know if these are the right words, but it's like a happy ending to a traumatic pregnancy, even though there was a sad part as well.
Yeah,
to have him in your arms.
exactly.
And was there any postnatal depression after that? Or was it a continuous trauma from
I think it's really, really hard, because I've been diagnosed now with PTSD. And years ago, again, Joe, when I heard PTSD, I don't know about you, but I just thought it was for soldiers.
Yeah. Well, it was at the time, wasn't it?
Do you
but
see
now
what I mean?
You don't have to be in war to have it.
Exactly. So when it was first brought up, I was like, I haven't got PTSD. I've never been in a war. I've never had to shoot people or have to see lots of dead bodies. And do you see what I mean? And so it was hard. And I mean, knowing what the time is as well, there was a lot of other bits and pieces that I haven't told you about the procedure that made me, well, just horrendous. And also the care that I got from Southend Hospital every time I went up there, unbeknown to the staff, but because they're so short-staffed and they don't have time to read my notes, every time I went in there, it was, and you're having twins. And I'd have to say, no, I have one alive and I have one dead. And then, of course, that would upset them. And me being me, would then end up trying to look after them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I'm talking about. You know me. You know what I'm like. So yeah.
Okay, I really appreciate you sharing that. It can't be easy talking about it, but I think maybe it's good for you to talk about it. Do you
Yes,
think?
it is. Oh God, yeah. And that's the thing. I think some people think I overshare, and I'm like, if I'm going to help one person, I don't care. I don't
Yeah,
really
and
care what they think.
if they don't want to listen, then don't listen. That's what
Exactly.
I
And I think you're going to put a link up, aren't you, about the
yes.
article that I found?
Yeah, you sent me an article which I'm going to put under this video. So I'll share this on Saturday because I
Yeah.
release my podcast on Saturday, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
share the link. But I would really love, maybe in a month's time or something, to have part 2 with you. Would that be
That,
all right? Or
of course,
schedule
that's
it in
fine. Yeah, that's
when it's
fine.
us, because I want to touch on, moving on from that, and then you've got more to talk about living with a neurodivergent family and with your fibromyalgia and how that came about, because all these things are real life
Yeah,
experiences. The more of us
exactly.
talk about them, the more people we can help, and that's what
Exactly. And that's where I come from as well, Joe. Yeah. It
and
is
that's
good
why
to
we're
talk.
both being transformational coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
very much. I really
thank you
appreciate it.
very much. I really appreciate it. I'm sending
Okay.
you lots of love.
Oh, you too. One
Take
day we'll meet properly.
Yes, we will definitely. We'll definitely meet one day.
Yeah. Okay. You take care. Yeah.
Lots of love, darling.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.